Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Real quick, I just want to put this out there. Okay, so I decided, you guys know the old school show of Roseanne, right? Back in the 80s, 90s, whatever. It was a really good show. It ran on for many decades. Well, not decades, but years, many seasons, whatever. Anyway, so you guys think it was pretty cool, right? All right, and Roseanne was really funny. The whole show was funny. Everybody loved it except for the time when they switched Becky. There's two Beckys, but yeah. Anyways, and they never explained that. We just accepted it. It just is what it is. And so that was off the air, right? After it ended, time went on. And we all know that if you know who Roseanne is, she's a comedian, right? So Roseanne, and what type of comedian she is, she ends up talking about if you've seen some of her stand-ups, she's very, I want to call the word raunchy. She's very she is very sometimes explicit. She has no filter. She is just out there, right? So she's all that's just who she is. That's her personality. Okay, my thing is a fact, and I'm not gonna get into this political thing with you guys because I know it's very touchy right now. So I'm just gonna leave it as it is right now. Okay, so apparently, you know, I think a couple back in 2019 ish. So no, I think it was closer, like 2016 ish, almost. I think it was when Trump was running for president the first time around. So I believe it was around that time when they came out with the show. They came out with the show The Conners, right? So apparently, when they came out with the show, I thought, okay, I'm gonna watch this. I was excited about it because I'm thinking, oh my god, they're gonna have the old cast on there. You know how you get excited about reboots, especially when you have the new cast. You have new people, but you have the old people, and you want to see what they look like when they got older, and with the kind of personality. What did their character grow up to be like? You know, how's it gonna be written, and everything. And we knew that Roseanne was gonna have a lot to say in it. We knew that she was gonna run the production. We knew she was gonna help doing the writing part of it. Okay, like she did, like she ran Roseanne, right? Well, apparently, okay, so I remember I got so excited, but at the same time, I was so sad because at the time, my family and I decided we're gonna try to save money. We're gonna cut the cords, right? If you don't know what that means, that's a term where basically you do not have cable, you don't have anything like that. You start getting into streaming. You don't, subscribe to an actual like a cable company and stuff. So you don't really get any really local channels per se. So if you want, but you can still kind of keep up with those type of channels, but you don't get like, like ABC, Fox, NBC, CBS, things like that. So the only way I could get those if I got like an antenna. And if you don't know what an antenna is, then you're too young to be on my channel. I'm just saying. So I spent the $40 because I want to make sure that I'm going to get good reception where I lived. So, and I know typically if you place it near a window, you'll get it. And so I was like, okay, so I got it all set up. That afternoon, I set it all up because I was waiting for the premiere of The Conners for that night. And I was so excited over it. So I ended up, went out, got this antenna, set this thing up, got it going. It's kind of hazy. It was cutting in and out every now and then, but I finally got it working right? After many hours, worked on it, got it set up, said nobody move. Because you know that old saying, as soon as you get the antenna right, nobody move. Don't touch it, don't bump it, don't walk by it. None of that. So I ended up, I'm telling my age over here, but I got it going. And then, so I knew it was going to come on, I think it was like 7 o'clock. It was going to come on. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make dinner about 5, 6 o'clock. I'll have dinner. And then I could sit down and we're going to watch it. So I did all this for a 20-minute show because I was so excited over it. Because this is my childhood. So, of course, a girl's got to do her thing, right? So I got everything settled, kids settled, husband, you settled, whatever. I'm good. Okay. I sat down. I watched the show. And I was like, oh my God. So, all in all, the plot basically ends up somehow, obviously we know Roseanne, she had knee issues from working all those years, so she's taking prescriptions. It's setting in today's era, so we have, you have, and it happens to be a political year when they brought the pilot out, so they made it where Roseanne's Republican, Jackie is Democrat, and you know Becky ended up being during, okay, so the pilot goes off, and then it mainly played on them politically, but it was kind of funny. There was some Trump jokes, which was actually funny. There was some Hillary jokes, which was funny. Feminism, all that stuff. It was mentioned, it was funny. There was parts where the young kid named Mark, which was Darlene's second child, who happens to want to wear skirts to school. That was an issue. Dan was like, no, what kind of kid, boy, wears, no, that's not happening. Boys don't wear skirts. And then Darlene's like, hey, times have changed. People, we can wear whatever you want to wear, things like that. And then, Roseanne seemed to be okay with it, whatever. It was more of, Dan was the protagonist in that scenario, in that part of the show, because he's like, oh, I ride motorcycles and I play football, and then you have Becky. During this time, Becky was actually having fertility issues, so she was supposed to be, trying to get pregnant. I mean, she was dealing with that and another loss. And here's Darlene having two kids, and her and David were having marital issues. They were still married, but they were separated. And so then you had Darlene's first child. Now, if you watch Roseanne, Darlene did get pregnant towards the last season, give or take. She had a baby girl. Well, now here, that baby girl supposedly is in her teens. Well, if you think about it, I mean, there is like a couple years, off here, because theoretically she would actually be, if actually really, she would actually be in almost early 20s by the time the Roseanne ended. But they didn't want to pick up at that point. They want to pick up where she's actually kind of a teenager. So because they want to they need a teenager, because Darlene's second child, Mark, he's like 12, what I mean? He's not really a teenager. But then you have Harris, which we remembered is an actual teenager. She's like 15, 16 years old. Okay. So now it's funny, their personalities, if you know Darlene's personality when she was part of the show, okay, you remember that Darlene she was more tomboyish. She wasn't that typical girl. She didn't dress like a girl. She didn't really act girly. She really didn't do any of that stuff, right? So that makes sense why her son, Mark, is not a typical boy. He wears skirts. He's very artistic, aka so was Darlene and David. So he got that gene from them, and he's very eccentric, and he's different. He's not a typical boy. Then you have Harris, the firstborn child, who is very much like, I mean, she's sarcastic like Darlene, and she kind of looks like Darlene a little bit in the face, which is really kind of creepy. But she also she kind of takes after a little bit more like Becky. She ends up, drinking in the woods with, boys, she's going out on dates. She ends up sleeping with a guy, all this stuff, just like Becky did. Becky was she was not tomboys, but she was boy crazy, So I thought that was kind of weird, not really weird, but I thought it was kind of interesting how they did that. Darlene stayed the same personality, she is what she is. And then Becky ends up, over here, being, kind of a wreck, but not really. She's just dealing with, she wants to have a child so bad, and she can't have a child. And here's Darlene over here, has two kids, and Darlene would be the last person you would think would ever want to have kids. She didn't want to have kids. She didn't want to have babies, and so forth, if you remember back in the day. So I thought it was kind of interesting how they play that out. Okay, so my point is that, okay, so the pilot, that's how the pilot went. And then you have Roseanne, who is apparently had knee surgery done. She has knee pain, she done knee surgery, but she had she's been going to pain management, and because they can't afford on Medicare and stuff like that, the surgery and stuff like she needs on her knees. So she ends up taking a lot of pain meds, but affording the medication is impossible. So somehow she ends up stashing pills around, and they think she's taking too much and so forth. And she's like, okay, I'll cut back on it or whatever. But then behind her back, she ends up, fighting her hiding spots and taking a couple pills. And it was kind of like, ooh, that's kind of, you can hear the audience like, ooh, But anyways, because it's all filmed with a live audience. But then you have, and then you have, what do you call it? Dan, who is still macho, like he's obviously older, obviously lost some weight, but they're saying he lost weight because when he had a heart attack, as we all know, when we watch Roseanne, when Darlene got married to David, that's when he had a heart attack. So he had to take better care of himself. So he started taking care of himself. So he lost some weight and so forth. So that's where that comes into play. And they kind of sort of mention that. Now, that's on the pilot. And then, so after that's already aired and stuff like that, Roseanne gets on, Roseanne Barr. She actually gets on Twitter underneath her own personal account, and she, we all know she's kind of, says whatever she wants to say, whatever it is. And the type of person that she is, she, she, like any other celebrity, talk about anything politics or bashing any political person or whatever it is. It's okay for everybody to do that, right? When it comes to the Republican side of things. But because Roseanne is a Republican, and she, to be fair, it was around 2 or 3 in the morning, she took Ambien, and Ambien came back and said, this is not, Ambien doesn't cause these things, doesn't make people like this. Well, we don't know that. I'm just saying, but I'm not blaming it on the Ambien, but I'm just saying, though, she was probably really, really drowsy, almost like a drunk. She also, to be fair, she made a comment about Valerie Jarrett. If you don't know who she is, she's in the political realm. That's all I know. And I do know what she looks like. She has olive color skin. Think of like a Kardashian, but a little bit more olive style color, tone to her skin. And apparently, Roseanne thought the woman was Caucasian, thought she was white. So Roseanne comes off and says, hey, that says that Valerie Jarrett shouldn't be commenting and acting like that she's part of, basically people of color, in that, in that part of society, because she wouldn't know because she's white. And people started attacking her. And then, so apparently, society, they thought they were coming off and talking about how they think that Roseanne was basically being racist towards Valerie Jarrett. And I'm thinking, I don't see how. I think and so Roseanne eventually sits down, does an interview. She does kind of apologize, but she's like, what else do you want me to say? What else do you want me to do? But the crazy thing about it is that she didn't get a chance to do any apology. The network immediately, within an hour of her posting this, basically fired her. ABC/Disney fires her. Well, we already know they're Democrats. They didn't like Roseanne to begin with. I don't even think they really wanted her to do this reboot. I think it was her idea. Apparently, they thought, okay, we'll give it a try. They saw the positive reviews about it after they shot the pilot, and so they decided, hey, we're gonna, we'll go with this, even though we kind of don't like her. But you don't have to like her when the on-air light is turned off. You just only have to like her when you're on the air, so, and pretend you're a big happy family, right? So Roseanne goes off and she ends up thinking, so I think she knew they didn't like her. And I think what happened was they were looking for anything and everything, a loophole in the contract to get rid of her, somehow to get rid of her. And they couldn't find anything. Well, that tweet, even though it was nothing really wrong with that tweet, they saw this is the bullet. She gave him the bullet, basically. So what happened? But so instead of, but in any other celebrity, they would have come back and said, "Hey, you need to follow up with an apology," or whatever. No, what they did was they ended up totally saying, we're not going to air next week's episode, we're not going to do anything. Instead, they show a bunch of reruns of old Roseanne shows, and especially they picked out certain shows that paints her in a bad light, or ones that she was barely in, some episodes that she was barely in those episodes. So they picked out those. So, whatever. If you're not on TV, if you're not being played, you won't get paid, right? So, yeah. So they ended up, long story short, they ended up totally scrapping it. And during that time, they decided, I guess they were going to decide what we're going to have to rewrite the storylines now, because we're not, they decided, I think what they decided ultimately to do, they asked the cast, how do you feel about it? And they basically took a vote and they decided, not only that, with stakeholders and money and all the people, they don't want to be associated with the racists, but she wasn't being racist. That's the funny thing about it. I don't care what you feel and how you think, but if you go back and read it, and she even did an interview in Down South, and she's so sick and tired of people asking her, and nobody wants to take what she says as truth. And they said, so she turns around and says, I thought that the bee, I'm not gonna say it out here, was white. I thought as she was grabbing her hands were in her hair, screaming at it. I thought that she was white. You know what I mean? That's why I said what I said. I was trying to correct her misappropriation of people of color by telling her that she had no right to say what she had to say because she was white, and yet I didn't know that she was a person of color. But see, the networks didn't care. They don't care. And not only that, but her other, her co-cast, stuff like that, obviously don't give a crap about her. I was about to say the other word, but yeah, they don't really care. So, yeah, like I said, I don't want to make this a political thing, but honestly, you take politics out of it, what she said was nothing compared to half of those people that are on the show, what they have said on some of their social media. I mean, come on. So I decided at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna watch the show anymore. I wasted $40 on the antenna, unplugged it, screw it, moved on. Haven't watched a single episode since. Left it alone. Every time it came up, a commercial came up about it, or whatever it is, I just ignored it. I walked away. I changed channel, muted it, didn't look at it, whatever. So now here we are. I think the show was completely over with. I'm shocked they went on as many seasons as I did. I remember I did read one small excerpt saying that, after the first season, it was, a little touch and go and may not have, good enough ratings to continue on. But apparently, I guess they got the funding. Well, go figure, because it was another election year. And, of course, a Democratic won. So, apparently, they got their funding. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. So here it is. I think the show's completely over with. And now I'm sitting there thinking, okay, you know what? And here's another election year. I'm just going to do, just for basically giggles, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch it. So I start with episode 1. As soon as I start watching, I'm thinking, wait a minute. Did they totally reshoot episode 1? They totally scrapped it. And I'm like, what was wrong with it? That first episode there was something wrong with it. All you had, and if you wanted to kill her off, you could have just made the next episode of her laying in the bed, or use a mannequin of her literally, you don't see her face or nothing like that, but she's in Dan's acting like she's, use another body double and just kind of shake her and knows that she's not waking up, and he thought maybe she died in her sleep because she OD'd on the pills. I mean, and then that would have been the end of Roseanne. Why did y'all have to reshoot the whole thing? And I couldn't understand that. And so never so I that really irked me to death. Then I went off and I thought, okay, you know what? Fine. Forget it. I'm gonna go on and I'm gonna continue on and I'll watch the rest of the other episodes. I started seeing a lot of symbolism. Now let's talk about that for a second. First of all, there's a couple episodes where you're in Jackie's apartment, which is a different apartment, by the way, not like the one she had the other, in Roseanne. It's a wholly different, nice, upscaled apartment, but for what Jackie does, which is nothing. But anyways, she supposedly has two bar stools they're like vinyl on top where you sit at, and they're by her kitchen area. They don't match the decor at all. And if you look at them, they are literally the Masonic flooring. They're the black and white checkers bar stools. And I thought, wow, okay, so that's what we're going to do. Okay. And then I also saw a couple backgrounds and in like I think one of the kids' rooms I saw in the background. It was weird. It was small, but it looked like it didn't match. There was like an owl statue, and then there was one part where another episode where Darlene is talking with Becky, and supposedly Darlene's like folding a blanket, and there's and but she holds it up just long enough where there's an owl on it. Okay, let's put that together. We got the checkered. Okay, so you have Jackie's apartment bar stools, then you have the owls, then you have the it's not just that, but also there's a Halloween episode as well, and the way Dan is dressed. And I mean, I'm gonna go back here and I'm gonna tell you what my daughter thought about all this though, and she kind of put it in a different perspective. But the way Dan's dressed for Halloween is not scary at all, but he looks like basically a Freemason. He looks like that's what he looks like. He is in the black and white, almost suit attire. He's got the hat, like Aleister Crowley hat. He's got this little weird looking medal, like it's weird. And I'm like, but then there's a scene during that same episode. He's standing kind of behind the couch area. I think Darlene is talking to one of the kids or whatever it is, and or Becky was talking to one of the kids, and Dan is standing behind the couch, but he's supposed to be just kind of standing there just looking or whatever, but he's just in the shot. It looks kind of awkward, but he does this. But he does it with his, I believe his right hand to the nose. He doesn't tap it though. He doesn't do this. He just does this. And it's not like he's sticking his finger over his nose. He just does. It's not on his lips, not on his cheek, not on his eyeball. He just goes, and he's really serious looking. And he's standing straight and tall like that. I'm like, that's like, are you doing a gesture, sir? So I'm like, I'm going to look that up. So I end up looking that up. And basically, I couldn't find anything actually totally connected to Freemasonry to it. But I did find out that what that would mean is that I know a secret that like I know a secret and you know a secret, whoever he's looking at, you don't see him on the camera, but whoever's looking at, I know a secret that you know a secret that nobody else here knows. But it also means that you have ritualistically did something and we can't say the secret. And I'm thinking, out of all people that could have supported Roseanne, would have been John Goodman, aka Dan. he stayed out of the limelight the whole time that she was going through her thing. Almost all the other cast members have said their piece about the whole situation, but Dan kind of skirted around it. And I also find out at the end of every show, you know how they usually do, like, who produce the productions, whatever it is, you know how they do it on the screen. I'm sorry, but I'm going to look into this. Is Melissa Gilbert funding this? Melissa Gilbert, aka Darlene, she was the main person that attacked Roseanne about this whole thing. She's one of the main persons that had been argumentative with Roseanne, and Roseanne's been argumentative with her during this whole thing. And I think this is kind of funny that maybe she's funding this. Her and Dan, did they, between her with the owls, also, never mind the kid with the whole trans, always constantly every freaking episode, he has to wear the trans backpack with the trans colors. He's got to have all the gay symbols. Which brings me back. I'm going to go back for a second. Bear with me. Sorry. ADHD. Okay. All right. So, in the pilot, Dan gets upset because the kid is wearing a skirt to school, right? And Darlene defends him. Well, we all know Melissa Gilbert in real life is a lesbian. So, of course, she's going to defend him, right? So, then when the first episode of the reshoot, this kid is literally barely puberty, okay? He's like maybe 12. He still has a high-pitched voice. He goes, Grandpa, does it bother you that I like boys? And then Dan just sits there and thinks about it as he's getting a beer out of the fridge. Typical Dan. He goes, no, not at all. Sir, did you change your mind? What? Roseanne was okay with him. Roseanne was okay with it. But you weren't. But now that Roseanne's gone and y'all reshot it, y'all totally rewrote the script of Dan's character. So now suddenly Dan's character is accepting of this? What? So yeah, I thought that was interesting. And then we have to come around, like I said, never mind the kid it's literally shoved down our throats. I mean, the kid is constantly having to fight for everything. Like, oh, we got to make sure he's wearing, one, he never matches. 2, you got to make sure his nails are painted. 3, you got to make sure he's wearing a skirt with some pants underneath. 4, you got to make sure his backpack is shown in almost every freaking episode. It's got to make sure the straps are the blue and, baby pink trans colors. And then he's got all these, and then in the bedroom, his side of the room versus Harry's side of the room. I mean, you got to talk about that. I mean, it is completely gone. It's like Rainbow City versus normalcy. And not only that, the whole show seems to be like this. If you're not Democratic, aka like Jackie, she's like one of those way left-wing personalities in the show. She may be in real life too, because she chases down a man who is a white man in the mall wearing Make America Great Again hat, and he's minding his own business, and she's like, okay, that's gone too far. And she chases after him like, oh my God. But yet, a black lady says that she is a Democratic, and then Jackie goes on with her fist in the air right on. Like, so now you're basically portraying that black people are Democrats, especially black women are Democrats, and a white man are Republicans, and they're bad. We should make sure we get rid of them. That's what they made this like. It's literally in your face. You don't even have to come up with these things in your head. You're literally just being programmed by just watching it. And I don't even know how much more I want to watch, but I still want to watch it because I'm curious on how much further down the road is it going to get? How bad is it really going to be? And I'm also picking out how much more symbolism are you going to show me besides what I've already seen? And beyond the whole, LGBT, ABC, whatever it is. I'm talking about, I'm seeing weirdness in the background. I'm seeing, is there the symbolism here that's beyond that? It's like, it's crazy. So back to, like I said, my daughter, she mentioned the reason why they think that they reshot the first episode was so they don't have to pay Roseanne. Because when people go back and rewatch it, as long as Roseanne is not in the picture, they don't have to pay her. And then so that, I didn't think about that. That made sense because every time you rewatch, you're still getting some kind of paycheck because it's being seen. So I think that's kind of interesting. Not to mention, guys, I think what also is interesting is that I think that if the show was on ABC, which is owned by Disney, wouldn't you think it would have been on Disney Plus? Why is it on Netflix? Netflix has all the seasons, every episode. So, does Disney own Netflix? Is there a contract somewhere around there? I don't know. That sounds suspicious to me. May have to look into that. But yeah. So anyway, so that's my take on, my questions about why did they reshoot it when it and rewrite the characters' personalities. I mean, they made every straight character in the show either crazy, lonely, delusional, drunk, or irresponsible. But every person that's not is completely normal, sane, doing something with their life. I'm like, really? Y'all do that? Y'all made Becky the most irresponsible person ever. I mean, it's just crazy. Anyways, all right. So stay tuned. This was just part one and that was just my take on the first season so far. And I'm about to start season 2. I think there's 6, so there'll be 6, I guess, follow-ups, and we'll go from there. I don't know how far along apart I will go into it, but that's where I'm getting there. So until then, I like, comment, share, subscribe. And by the way, to my haters out there, you know what? You can kiss my white butt. I'm just saying. Just because I have 165, oh wait, no. It's 166, by the way. Subscribers doesn't mean I can't get on TikTok. You don't have to be an influencer. And if you are subscribed to me, you do care. So why are you telling me that nobody cares? Just a little PS moment. Just want to let you know that. So PSA, if you have 1 subscriber, enjoy social media to your heart's content. Anyways, with that being said, guys, I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one. And like, comment, share, subscribe. And I'll see you later. Bye.